Drop your location and your local time in the comments. He grins because he loves seeing the map light up like a Christmas tree running on coffee and optimism. Then he trudge up the new driveway, diesel still hanging in the air from that 200-mile push, and Neon strides toward him, tracksuit heels, camera, the whole HOA starter kit. And before his engine even sighs off, she plants a $500 slip on the windshield like she's auditioning for Traffic Court the musical. He breathes once, twice, lets the perfume cloud float past notes of citrus victory and receipts, and it's all fines, all pre-printed. All you have 48 hours, as if the calendar obeys her gavel emoji, which, spoiler, she does not own. Neighbors part blinds 2 fingers wide. A dog stops barking mid-woof, and even the sprinkler down the block seems to whisper, "Bro, not today." Light joke 1, he considers paying in Canadian Tire money just to see if she blinks. 2, he wonders if the camera shutter is solar-powered because it sure doesn't stop. 3, he mentally fines her for weaponized athleisure. He listens politely, smiles like a man who reads footnotes for sport, and asks for covenants and financials. She recoils as if he requested her Netflix password. Historians still argue whether that's the real line between neighbors and sworn enemies, and clicks off, leaving the driveway scented with entitlement and threat. Fine. He knows the drill. County recorder, fluorescent lighting, air of paper and despair. He signs the brittle pin chain like he's checking into a mid-tier motel and pulls the original 1983 covenant's 12 pages of common-sense neighborliness. Somehow they've mutated into a 47-page novella about mailbox hex codes and seasonal wreath diameter, a literary genre known as suburban baroque. Light joke 4, he half expects a chapter on acceptable snowflake symmetry. 5, he adds Form 27B to his imaginary bingo card. 6, he files a complaint with no one about the stapler that bites him. Then the fringe tidbit drops into his mind as he flips ancient Egyptians once used crocodile dung sunscreen. True story, do not attempt. And he decides some rules age exactly that well. He cross-checks the landscaping clauses and finds gold. Aunt Millicent's roses are grandfathered, protected heritage bloomers, which means the unapproved modification violation has the structural integrity of a chocolate ladder. He traces the budget lines, and the decimals wobble like shopping carts missing a wheel. Landscaping, inflated pool care, priced like artisanal stardust, legal fees with the swagger of a corporate merger. That's when a gentle voice materializes at his elbow. Cardigan, steady eyes, the aura of overdue books forgiven. And Ms. Gladys, retired librarian, slips him a bulging folder as if handing off a rare atlas. "You didn't hear this from me," she says, "which is librarian for you. Absolutely heard this from me." Inside, dates, patterns, photos, names. A quiet map of 2 bad years. Light joke 7, the tab divider reads yikes. 8, another reads extra yikes. 9, he labels his own section, "Oh, we're doing this." He steps back onto the sun-baked sidewalk, dossier under arm roses nodding in the heat like they already know. The neighbor's curtains quiver. He nods back. The paper trail is real, the fear is real, and so is his calm, because receipts don't shout, they stack. He spreads the papers across Aunt Millicent's dining table, turns the old lace runner into a runway for numbers, and the pattern struts right away. Landscaping checks to Mountain View pool bills, to elite legal retainers, to a firm with a letterhead that screams "Trust us" in 14-point italics. He maps corporate records with a pencil and the patience of a fly fishing guide. Shell companies surface like turtles after a storm. Nephew here, boyfriend there, college roommate doing creative interpretations over yonder. Light joke 1, he draws a tiny pirate hat on each shell company because, well, shells. 2, he adds skull and crossbones to the most egregious invoice, just vibes. 3, he awards the pool contract a gold star for audacity and a detention slip for algae. By sundown, the quiet resistance coalesces. Bob, the Vietnam vet, brings a thermos and a notebook that smells faintly of machine oil and wisdom. Sophia, the paralegal, arrives with color-coded tabs that could land a plane. Pastor Williams sets down coffee and a prayer that doubles as a pep talk. The living room hums like a library during finals week. Low voices, high focus, snacks that dare you to stop at 2. Fringe tidbit of the night, he notes lobster eyes reflect light with tiny mirrored squares called Tepeta Nature's disco balls, and declares this investigation officially disco lit. Historians still argue whether the first neighborhood covenants were meant as hospitality guidelines or early warning systems for garden gnome coups, but either way, their 12-page origin story didn't include how to launder money with lawn clippings. He cold calls vendors, collects market quotes, and the Gap's yawn open $800 pool service that should be $200, $3,000 mowing that looks like it's done by a philosophical goat on sabbatical. Light joke 4. He names the goat Bertrand. 5. He schedules meeting with Bertrand on the whiteboard because morale matters. 6. He invents a tiny stamp denied by Bertrand and uses it liberally on the worst line items. Ms. Gladys cross-references violation patterns. The pins on their corkboard avoid the McMansions like rain avoids a windshield treated with miracle infomercial spray. The targeted households. Elderly single parents, anyone likely to fold under pressure, fear monetized and merchandised. When the first whisper reaches him that she's thinking emergency foreclosure with 24 hours notice, he calls the AG tip line with the calm tone of a person ordering pie then meets an investigator at a diner booth, where the lemon slices look suspiciously heroic. They talk process rights recordings. He learns Colorado is single-party consent tucks that fact beside the crocodile dung sunscreen in his things that sound fake but help drawer and nods when the agent slides him a discreet recorder. He practices hello 3 times, checks his laugh for wire rattle, and waits. It's near midnight when the BMW glides up like a shark that Googled subtle. She steps in with a gym bag that clinks like rolled quarters, voice syrupy pitch transactional. Let's put this unpleasantness behind us. He offers tea because his mother raised him right, and also because microphones love kitchens. The recorder blinks, the clock ticks, and she talks about borrowing funds, about creative accounting, about residents who need a decider. Light joke 7. He mentally finds her for adverbs. 8. He wonders if the gym bag has a membership. 9. He nearly asks for a receipt, but the agent's voice in his memory says, "Let silence do the work." When the door finally clicks shut behind the BMW, he exhales into the sleepy house, sets the gym bag down by the roses and labels the audio file with a name that tastes like Victory, Tuesday, Confession, Final, no, really. The war room sleeps around him, paper snowbanks glittering under the lamp, and he knows the shell game just ran out of shells. By morning, the community center hums like a beehive that discovered espresso. Folding chairs multiply, cameras blink, and he walks in steady roses on his tie, like a quiet drumbeat from Aunt Millicent. Deirdre tries to seize the mic with a gavel she does not own. Historians still argue whether Robert's rules promote democracy or merely prolong potlucks. And Gladys rises. Palms, calm voice, firm point of order. No quorum, no steamroll. Light joke 1. The crowd claps on 2 and 4 like a very polite jazz club. 2. A toddler shushes her own dad, which feels legally binding. 3. Chad polishes his fake badge so hard it probably earns tenure. He starts the deck before and after photos invoices that sparkle like stage props under the light, and then the flowchart money-hopping shells like frogs on stepping stones until it lands in very familiar pockets. Bob's engineering pages land with the elegance of a hammer. Sophia's tabs flick open like card tricks. The pool invoice earns a slideshow close-up that smells faintly of algae and audacity. Fringe tidbit slides in as the room gasps. Honey almost never spoils ancient jars, stay edible for millennia, unlike budgets which curdle in weeks when left under fluorescent mismanagement. Light joke 4. He offers to trade one playground receipt for a jar of that immortal honey. 5. Bertrand the philosophical goat appears in a slide margin headbutting a $3,000 mowing claim for dramatic effect. 6. A caption reads, "Denied by Bertrand." The room actually snorts. Then the audio rolls, her voice, warm words, cold, borrowing funds, creative accounting sheep who need a decider. A silence lands heavy and clean. The detective in back clears his throat. The AG observer lifts a pen. A neighbor whispers, "There it is," the way sailors whisper land. The vote moves like water, downhill board removed accounts. Frozen independent management approved audit commissioned restitution pursued. Light joke 7, the broken entrance camera gets reassigned to watch an actual tree for continuity. 8, someone proposes a ceremonial retirement for the gavel that wasn't. 9, he suggests a planter filled with roses and crocodile dung sunscreen. Kidding, please don't. Outside, the late sun flares off windshields. Inside, fees drop on paper, not as a promise, but as arithmetic, and the room breathes in one shared, unclenched breath. He thanks the volunteers, shakes the detective's hand, sets the gym bag on the table like an artifact from a finished era, and thinks receipts don't shout, they build choirs. Night leans in, soft and slow, and he walks the quiet block the long way home, past mailboxes that look less like tripwires and more like welcome signs, past porch lights that stop feeling like searchlights and start feeling like stars. The air cooling as if the whole neighborhood exhales together after holding its breath for too many months, and he lets his steps draw longer, smaller, gentler, because the work of repair is patient work, and patient work needs a slower voice. The roses in Aunt Millicent's garden sway in a breeze that smells faintly of cut grass and clean water. The pool already answering to real chlorine and real schedules, and somewhere 2 streets over a grill lid closes with a friendly clink. Laughter rises and a sprinkler keeps time like a metronome set to calm. He lingers at the little library box the neighbors built, fingers the spine of a handbook on rights and remedies, leaves it for the next pair of hands, and traces the painted letters of her name. Millicent, feeling how memory can be a small bright porch light you never switch off. Windows drowse to a soft honey of lamplight. A cat makes its unhurried patrol. The silence between crickets grows generous, like a room making space for new furniture. And he thinks of the odd fragments from the journey, the disco eyes of lobster, the patient tapeta, the goat with opinions, the sunscreen no one should try. And he smiles at how even the stray facts quiet down when people are safe again. Historians still argue whether communities turn on single moments or 1,000 tiny ones braided together. Tonight he decides it does not matter which story wins, only that the braiding keeps happening, steady hands over steady hands. He steps inside, sets the final folder on the table that once held maps of wrongdoing and now holds a small bowl of keys, and he lets the house settle around him like a thoughtful coat, heavier at the shoulders, warmer at the seams. Outside, the street drifts toward sleep, and the roses, tireless, keep their watch. Somewhere a child dreams of swings that didn't exist last week. Somewhere an elderly neighbor sleeps without a list of fines pinned to fear. He dims the last lamp to a whisper and lets the night finish the sentence for him.